All right, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another great Lunch and Learn with the Purchasing Division. Today, I'm truly excited about today's topic, which is a spotlight of our actual division, the Purchasing Division. And we have our Director of Purchasing, Bob Gleason, here, who's going to kind of give you guys an overview of who we are, what we do, and why we are important and how we are able to help you guys. Let me give you a little bit background on Bob. So Bob Gleason, our Director of the Purchasing Division, was selected to join Broward County as its Purchasing Director at the end of the year for 2021. Prior to this role with Broward County, he was Maryland's state first Chief Procurement Officer, CPO, and was commissioned to work with all state stakeholders to develop, implement, and lead a plan to modernize, reorganize, and transform Maryland's overall procurement system. Previous to Maryland, Bob was a senior procurement officer for the Commonwealth of Virginia. He managed that state's statewide procurement program and their enterprise e-procurement program. Bob has over 25 years in public and private procurement and is a certified public procurement officer, CPPO, as well as holds certifications as a Virginia Contracting Master, VCM, and Contracting Officer, VCO. Bob served 12 years in the U.S. Army Field Artillery and NATO Central Army Group. So let's go ahead and give a round of applause to Bob. I will go ahead and turn it over to him. And just as a friendly reminder, as we do with all of our lovely Lunch and Learns here, if you have any questions as he is presenting, feel free to go ahead and type those in the chat. I will try to intersperse them as we go along, or if time does not permit, we'll just go ahead and take those towards the end. All right. Thank you, guys. And without further ado, tossing over to Bob.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. Good morning, one and all, and thank you, Alexa, for that. I should have looked at the bio. I didn't want to get into all that stuff. But anyway, I was reminded this morning that today is the second year anniversary of arriving here. So I'm happy and delighted to spend the first day of my beginning of my third year working with all of you and being able to present today. So thank you, Lucy, for reminding me. September 13th, 2021. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I have a presentation prepared. Let's see here, going to presentation mode. Hazel, you have your hand raised. Just want to make sure. Settings. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Here's our top secret presentation, which I have declassified as of today. This is an update. I had the first, for those of you who were here when I arrived, I had probably about 3 or 4 months to follow my predecessor and to follow all of you around. And so I had plenty of opportunity to sort of reconcile everything I've seen and heard and done for the past 25, 30 years in purchasing, procurement, contracting, contract management, and see where we were doing some really great stuff and where some things that I thought we could work on more. So that resulted in what I called, or somebody called, the whiteboard, Bob's whiteboard. Starting with number 1, top left, and all the way through that, were things that I saw that we could work on. I had to understand some of the technology technologies that we have or use or had and we're working on. And so those that you'll see on the far right-hand side of the whiteboard. So from this, and some of you who are here may recall we had our one-on-ones, and I try to do that with everybody as they onboard, have a one-on-one and ask from your experience where you've been, what you've done and how you've done things. What have you seen that you would like to do? What's the one thing? What are the multiple things that you've done before that worked or didn't work that you would like to see? And so this list, I started out maybe, I guess I got down to maybe 14 or 15, and then everybody else started adding on there. So from this, and this is my mood when I think sometimes about procurement. If you've been in the business for a long time, you sometimes have that sort of shell-shocked look at what's coming next. And if you love what you do, sometimes it can be exciting, surprising, however you would want to characterize it. It becomes the way, you know, business is interesting. It comes at you. Some of you have heard me talk about the BLT sandwich, and that's not bacon, lettuce, and tomato, but I use it to describe business, legal, and politics, because everything we do, and that's the little p politics. You know, you have internal, you have external, you have suppliers. Anybody can call anybody, anybody can talk to anybody, and sometimes that stuff emerges at unforeseen moments. So you have the business components of purchasing, and then you have the legal aspects of purchasing, and then you have the other thing that I just talked about, the little p politics. So all of these things have to be balanced, and all of them are goals that have to be met when we go through a procurement process and end up with a contract at the end. So enough about that, but you have to have a purpose. So in our case, our purpose, as I've described it, is to ensure our client success through best value procurement solutions. You know, I've seen some missions of procurement, you know, where you have to have the right things delivered at the right time, at the right price, with the right supplier, for the right this, the right that. Everything has to be done perfectly or well enough to get legal sufficiency. You can add a whole lot. That, to me, that's more the how. But the what is this county, its residents, its citizens, and the agencies that deliver essential public services to the county. We have to make sure that they're successful through the contracts that we deliver. That's our mission. If they don't get what they need in order to accomplish their mission, then we have not succeeded. So that's just the simplistic way that I look at it. You know, the vision piece, you know, we have 3,100 X number of counties in the country, and I would want our county to be viewed as the best in the United States. Alexa mentioned that I was in Virginia. I sort of drove for 4 years, and my goal was to be the best ranked state in the country. And I almost made it. I got to number 2, and that's not bad. But I will say this about number 1, and this was in 2016. They were good friends of mine. I invited them to Virginia for a couple of years, and they studied everything that I was doing, and they took it back to Georgia, and they just did it better. So good for them. So the values are just sort of the intrinsic elements that drive how I do business and how I view the world. You can put them in any order, but they all matter. There's plenty of other things I could have added, but I thought that this was the foundation. The strategies were developed over time by me, and the alignment. Some of you have heard me mention this. Our agents, our managers, and myself, and the work that we do has to be in alignment with the categories, and that gets into the next element there, category management, of who are clients, back to the client success. So we have to know transportation. We have to know the transportation mission, their needs. We have to understand the products and the services that they need, that they talk about, their language, their priorities, their culture. So our procurement people in that space have to know that. And that's true with every county agency, whether it's the port, the airport, roads, bridges, highway, transportation, human services, regardless. We have to know our clients better than they know themselves. And on the flip side, we have to know the marketplace, the suppliers. We have to know who those suppliers are, and we need to develop those suppliers in order to develop the procurements and the contracts where we can satisfy our clients' needs. Relationship management is always important. It's like anything. You want to have a healthy, effective relationships on both sides of the supply and demand equation. We have to have healthy, effective relationships with our clients. We have to understand them. They have to know that they can rely on us when they're in a pinch or when they have a business need. And on the flip side, we've got to maintain effective relationships up and down the chain, upstairs with our superiors and our leaders, commissioners, and outside externally with our suppliers, our lobbyists, our everybody that is part of the dynamic in our business. Collaboration. We collaborate for success. We team together. This goes to, we have 16 cities here in the county. We have to be able to know them, work with them. We have our adjacent counties, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach County. We have our colleagues at Tallahassee, the state agency. We have to know them and be able to work together to accomplish our mission. Technology, that's the tools. We need to have tools, and from contract administration, contract management, to the sourcing suppliers, onboarding, registering vendors, going through the approval workflows, making sure that all of the key peoples in the chain are part of that process. We need to have the technological tools to do that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then finally, talent. Actually, talent probably should be number one, but we need to have the people who have the skills, the experience, the competencies, the values that we've talked about. So those are the strategies. Sometimes you get there, but in working towards the mission, accomplishing the mission, and using these strategies, I have found that to be successful. And we posted this online on the website. Moving on. So I had to pick a theme. So I like cars. So I tried to think of who the best racing team in the world is. And everywhere I look, Ferrari comes up on top. So in the world of procurement, you're looking for a good operating model, looking at how people, process, and technology come together, and how we continually improve that. I selected this as sort of the theme here. On the far left there, the people, they all work together. Yeah, you have one driver, maybe two or three, but on the other hand, you have an army of people that make that goal. They have a single goal, and that's to win races. That's it. Sell cars, maybe that's secondary, but for the racing team, they have to win the race. So our goal is to ensure that our clients are successful, and we have to be, similarly focused on that mission. I will say, in researching this a little bit, I found out that the Ferrari team is their pit stops are like 2 to 3 seconds. Car comes in, 2 to 3 seconds. You have a platoon of people that are changing tires, adjusting this, adjusting that, and boom, they're out of there. So that takes a lot of training. They have to have processes in place to make sure that happens. And of course, if you talk to them, they would say they probably have the best technology, but Red Bull and McLaren and other teams might beg to differ. But nevertheless, they are the most successful team in racing history. So I like that as a model. And what does that have to do with procurement? Well, we have to be the best at what we do. So here's the plan. Some of you might remember back in March, I talked to the commissioners about the differences between a bid and a proposal. They're different tools. They both get to the same end, but they're used for different reasons. That was on March 13th. And so I took that slide and I took the liberty of reordering it in terms of the order of priority as I see it. First things first, Procurement and Innovation Council. Some of you might have been on the call yesterday with the state of Maryland. I talked to them and they allowed me to participate with a couple of our colleagues. I think that that's recorded, and some of it's very boring, but some of it's very relevant in terms of how you manage change. And I just talked on the previous slide about continuous improvement. You have to have the mechanisms and the processes and the people in place to look at changes or improvements rather, and I prefer to call them improvements, in how we do our business. Back to our business, next thing there is the RFP business process reengineering. That's an effort, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And actually, we're going to go through all of these. So I'm going to refrain from going through this list, and I'm just going to plow in. Back to the previous slide for a second. I'm going to ask your help. People, process, and technology. As I go through this presentation, I'd like to, in the comments, get your feedback in terms of which bucket, people, process, or technology, do these improvements or these innovations fall into. That might help me later. Thank you. So the first thing is the Procurement Innovation Council. What's that about? So those who accompanied me yesterday on the call, that is an advisory council. It consists of the director of procurement or purchasing, and provides the county with a transparent forum to talk about issues that are related to our business, because our business is related to accomplishing the mission of our clients and working with our suppliers. So what we want to do is meet periodically. We'll have an agenda. The composition of what I call the pick is here. I had also thought to include three external stakeholders through some sort of an appointment process, but that could become problematic for now. And so I'm prepared to move forward on simply the internal members of the county who would be appointed or designated or somehow identified by the county administrator, with whom I would work closely with the administration on all of this. Next, RFP, and let's see here, business process reengineering. So this was, I think, the second item on the list. So in doing a little research, and by the way, this long precedes me. This chart here, and Alexa or others might know more. This was done back in 2016. But it does illustrate the complexities of how an RFP is done in this county. On the far left-hand margin there, those different colors, those represent the various stakeholders within the process. Typically, this is referred to as a swim lane. And so purchasing is at the top, and then down the left side of that chart there, you have I'm sorry, it's the agency at the top in blue. Then you have purchasing in yellow next. Then you have the board, OESBD, risk management, administration, evaluation committee, the attorneys, the accountants, and of course you have the vendors. And then finally you have the auditor at the bottom. So because of the number of people involved in Broward County, you have a variation with regard to what a typical public body does in terms of the time and effort it takes to do an RFP. And not to say it's good or bad, I'm just saying it's different. So typically 15 weeks, and you could argue whether it's longer. I think my experience has been it's typically around 6 months for a state. Both in Maryland and Virginia, and from what I've heard from my colleagues in the other states. I was part of the National Association of State Procurement Officials and on their board, and worked with their, the other states. So typically 6 to 8 months is what I would say for an RFP. Here, it's probably a year, and this is just from posting to award. If you were to go taken the time, let's see, before it's posted. Well, now you're talking maybe 16 weeks, something like that, 16 to 20 weeks, I think. So you add all that up together and it's very lengthy. So I'm not going to dwell on this, but it's something we're going to take under our wing, and we're going to try to figure out how we can do this more efficiently. So many of you have helped work on developing a procurement manual. I'm calling it the Broward Procurement Surplus Property Manual, the BPSPM. It is available to the purchasing agents because they've been nibbling on this for a while. I thought this was going to take maybe 6 months, and I think we've been drilling on it now for a year and a half, maybe. So I'm not going to read this, but this is the these are the reasons behind it. And every place I've ever been, there is a manual, a guidebook that describes not only the code and how you implement the code, which in my experience describes the what we do, and the procurement manual and policies that are developed by the purchasing professionals outlines how that's done. And of course, the how might be comprised of multiple solutions to do any one thing. You know, we might have six or eight different procurement methods, and the choice of method is dependent on what the commodity is, the category, et cetera. So, and the needs, the urgency, for example, is it an emergency? Is it a sole source? Is it a reasonable sole source? Does it fall under small purchase thresholds, et cetera, et cetera? So the manual will describe how that all works, and it will be available for everyone in an open and transparent way once we're there. And by the way, let me back up here. Much of this is pulled out of the code. Part 6, Purchasing Division. So there's a link there. I'm not going to go to it, but except for the bottom there, the other, and I didn't put bullets on them, but those other sentences basically are pulled out of the code. So the manual will help us to administratively or to administer the centralized procurement system here in the county. So back to people. So having a standardized application of our rules, our code, and our practices through the manual is what the certification process does, so that we're all operating consistently, you know, throughout the practice of what we do. You know, I've heard one person describe it before as the rules, the tools, and the schools. So this is the cool school of procurement proficiency here for the county, at least county government. And so these are all the reasons why we would have this program. The other thing about a certification program is you can get a certificate that's good, but it's sort of a moment in time. It's a snapshot in time. Having a certification process allows you to re-up or refresh your skills or your knowledge or what's changed since you initially received your certification. So as things change over time with annual law changes and policy changes, all of us can be brought up to speed through a certification program, hence the reason for a program. And great thanks. I didn't mention this in the beginning, or maybe I did, but I want to thank Alexa for the Lunch and Learn series that she's created. This allows that sort of continuous improvement process to be brought forward. And I talked with her maybe a month ago, and I said, hey, look, before we start getting going here on the whole series, I wanted to give a broad overview of the purchasing division and what we're doing and how we're doing it, why we're doing it, so that we can set the tone and the stage for the next sessions. So on the list to the commissioners was the idea of structured agency delegations and standards. You know, you know what's the old saying, you can give a man or a person a fish, or you can teach them how to fish. So I want to make sure that through the certification program, through the manual, we develop some processes where we might be able to enable the agencies to be doing maybe more for themselves. If they have the desire or the need to want to do that. But that's got to be done in a structured way. So within the initial chapters of the procurement manual are certain standards that have to be met if anyone is going to be doing what we do internally within an agency. Then, and this can change. This is not written in stone. This is what I've done elsewhere. And by the way, just about everything I'm describing here in this presentation has been done either by myself or many others who I know and have demonstrated the ability to increase effectiveness of the purchasing function for that organization. So these are the standards we would be expected to meet in order to delegate to the agencies. Also on the list was a vendor management office, and I've done this, and it allows a consistent way of working with and developing our supply base to be more responsive to the solicitation needs that I've issued in the past. It's right now, it's sort of a figment of my imagination here, but we did get budget approval, as I recall. So I believe October 1, when the new budget arrives, we'll have the resources to be able to begin hiring. Right now, we'll probably hire one, but we have the ability to hire a second once we get the position in place that's going to run this. And these are going to be that focuses on the initial priority, unit creation, creating a presence, et cetera, et cetera. And they'll also help to train our suppliers and support our dispute resolution practices. I'd like to do things, like any problem, the longer you don't resolve it, the worse it gets. So when there are disputes, either within a contract or during a procurement process, the earlier, the sooner, and the better we can resolve a dispute amicably, the better off you are saving time and energy, resources later on. And again, back to the mission, we've got to deliver contracts to our clients. So, here in Broward County, they have objections. You can object this, object that. You can protest. And so we're trying to reduce the friction in that process in order to more efficiently get to a contract that helps our clients. Enough on that. Okay, the rules, the tools, and the schools. So this is the rules part for the vendor side of the equation. This is to help me and us, this division, to administer the system, and helps vendors. It gives them the rules under which they operate and can work under, and what our expectations are, what we expect. Part of the challenge we have is to make sure that number one, we have suppliers who actually do want to do business with us. If it takes 2 years to get to a contract, many vendors would probably tell you that they don't have the time to wait 2 years. And if they have to hold staff, in limbo, they need work. So this is going to help them. So many industries they certify their vendors to make sure that they deliver deliver value, that they satisfy our criteria. I know we have our own small business, we have our own small business and certain socioeconomic certification programs, but overall, I want to make sure that our supply base is developed to ensure that we have plenty of suppliers who A, want to do business with us, and B, are incentivized and are proud to do business with us. So training them is just as important to be responsive to our solicitations as it is just hitting them over the head with a hammer when they don't do something right. So I want to make sure that they're proud to do business with us. and we will have lunch and learn series with them as well. We already had several already, and those are parked online on YouTube. So everywhere I've been, I've always heard the mention, and some of you know about the spend cube. So it's sort of a way of looking at both private sector, public sector, of looking at what are you buying, who are you buying it from, how much are you buying, what does it cost, and trying to provide an organized way of how you acquire the contracts for the necessary goods and services you need. So if we're buying one thing, but we're doing it 5 different ways from 5 different suppliers, that's not really efficient. So being able to have the technology that gives us the data, the analytics, and the business intelligence so that we can design a strategic sourcing program that satisfies our needs in a more efficient way. We're able to delegate to agencies to buy things maybe that are unique to their agency. The purchasing division can focus on county-wide needs and develop the structured framework agreements that delivers that. And by the same token, I would say that if I think I mentioned we have 16 cities, so if we have 16 cities buying, rock salt, well, we don't buy rock salt here. So aggregate or sand or whatever else that they buy. If we're doing it 16 different ways, and maybe there's a way that we can all work together and develop contracts that saves everybody a lot of time and effort. And not only that, I think it helps suppliers. I mean, we work with a lot of small businesses. You got mom and dad and, uncle and aunts and brothers and sisters and kids doing this, that, and the other. If they only have to respond to a single solicitation rather than 16 different solicitations, that helps them as well. So one of the ways we can do that is through technology. And I think last Friday we had a successful launch for the Mars replacement, and we have other things on the path ahead. I'm gonna talk about that in a second. And I refer to this more as e-commerce. So if we can develop contracts that can be standardized and used by all of the key clients that we have within the county, and maybe actually external to our county through a automated system that is advanced, and these systems exist. And we're with a company called Bonfire. They acquired DemandStar and another solution whose name escapes me at the moment, but we're with a good partner here. So off we go. We'll see. So back to the team here. So like I said, the best racing team in the world has a great team. They have great technology. So this is a great team, and this is the core team. So hats off to all of them for the time and effort. This is, this is in addition to their day jobs. So it's very much appreciated the time and effort that they have placed to get us to where we are now. But we have a ways to go. So here's the outline for the way ahead for our technology. Phase 1 we've done. Phase 2, that gold star there in the middle is about where we are now. And others on the call can feel free to correct me, but that's kind of where I see us, where we are. We're getting ready to go into phase 2. And then in the spring, we'll go into system launch. But there's a lot that's not on this slide, but that's the high level view. So this is from my experience, and this is a busy slide. So let me sort of describe this. I don't know if see on the left side there, these are the tools that I found that the procurement people typically need to have. It used to be that you owned a lot of this stuff. Now it's available through a service. I would point out a couple of things that we're going to be focused on. one of which is the contract management, contract administration. I just mentioned that. The other thing is having a supplier network. So IonWave was the other company I was trying to remember. So Ariba, that's the one I've used in the past, the Ariba Supplier Network. PeopleSoft has their Oracle Supplier Network. And these are thousands and thousands of suppliers that the tool provider, the service provider, already has onboarded within their systems. Bonfire has their own Bonfire Supplier Network. There's a couple others there that I've not used. Of course, Amazon, we know that. DemandStar and IonWave are the two companies that Bonfire has acquired through their parent company, is now called EUNA, I believe it's pronounced. I'm used to having mobile applications down below. Now, all of those tools are done through the hardware, which is the middle pillar there. Those are typically provided by the contractor in the cloud. And then the data warehouse can reside. Typically, there's an active and a redundant warehouse in case of continuity of operations. COOP, you typically have redundancy or failover to your data in another at another location. And then all of this is tied to the internal and external systems through a message broker. You see that in the pink there, or whatever that color that is. And that's the middleware that integrates or interfaces your tools on the left side to the various and your data to the other applications that are external to purchasing. So I threw this in there. It's something I developed over many years in coordination with different application providers as well as internal purchasing people. So it might be something to be aware of. These are some of the dimensions of value that I see coming through the strategies that we are implementing. And finally, I'm just going to crow a little bit on behalf of the purchasing division. Congratulations. You are probably in the top 1% of all U.S. counties. I believe I counted and I said that there's over 3,100 counties in the U.S. That might be right, I think. But nevertheless, only about 30 counties in the country, 31 counties received this award. It's a difficult award to achieve. There's a lot of documentation of your processes and your policies, your workflows, decision management, your tools, your systems, et cetera, et cetera. And hats off to Debbie Storm, the Boers team within the procurement division. And I just wanted to make mention of that very quickly. And so from that slide in the beginning where those guys were in that muddy trench, at the end of this process, we're not going to be in that trench. We're going to be in a different state of mind. So Alexa, that concludes my presentation. I will stop sharing and open to questions. How do I get out of this? Escape, maybe? Does that it? Did that do it?
Yes, escape works, and you can go ahead and minimize. So thank you very much to Bob.
Open to questions if there's time, by the way.
Yes, for giving this presentation. Bob, you can go ahead and stop sharing there.
How does
Okay,
that
great.
work? All right, thank you.
Perfect. We're back to seeing you. All right, so I do see a few questions in the chat. I'll go ahead and read them out, and then if you want to go ahead and provide a response. So the first one is from Jillian. She's really excited about the certification process and wants to know, when will it begin?
Well, I'll say this. Alexa here, kudos to her. She's already ahead of me. She's presented she's looked at other programs, and she has put together a Broward specific program that I think you're going to be excited about. I've got it here, but I'm going to let Alexa maybe talk a minute about that. If you would care to, Alexa, because I think it's fantastic. you and Sheila and Boris. I mean, go ahead and talk about it.
Well, what I will say in response to your question, Jillian, is that it's coming soon. I won't tell you exactly when. We are working diligently on preparing a really comprehensive program, as Bob mentioned, that really covers everything that you would need to know in terms of procurement, not just procurement currently, but procurement in the future as well. And that we're going to bring in a lot of key stakeholders to speak, to educate. There will be a lot of interaction. If you've been in any of my trainings, you know that I try to, bridge a gap between just presenting information, but also making sure that, it's actionable and that you have the opportunity to kind of work through the information. So we will share that information. It's coming soon. That Bob gave you more of a teaser, but once it's released, we will definitely make it available to everyone. The next question that we have is, please confirm that the BPRO system will be the new e-market platform.
I'm sorry, the new
E-market platform.
Yeah, e-commerce, e-market. I mean, generally speaking, when someone goes in to want to acquire or buy something, if it's readily available through an existing contract, then typically there is a catalog, or what I call an electronic mall. When where, if you want maintenance, repair, and operating tools and materials, if we have an existing contract, and that contractor would be expected to provide a catalog that you can pick and choose because it's already been negotiated, it's already been awarded, it's already been agreed to. So now you just go through and select. Then there's the budget constraints that are going to be required. So, and then there's the P card program. So yes, it is going to be an e-commerce platform through approved and contracted contractors. And then you'll be able to select, and sometimes they have punch out catalogs. I think Ranger is the one catalog we have. My expectation would be, we could have as many as 100 punch out catalogs. And then once you go into the e-mall, you pick the category of the good or the service that you're needing to acquire. You have to go through the decision cycle, through the budget manager, through the internal management decision making, but eventually you get to the end, you punch out, you purchase it. So I think that answers that question.
Okay, and looks like Jillian was mentioning, she said, sign me up for the the certification when it comes to pass. And she said, how does it tie into the national procurement certification?
So I can only speak to one national procurement certification because there's many, and they're all good. With the exception of the UPPCC, the others are more association specific, but they're all good and they're all recognized and they're all qualified. So those are generally based. Santricia can't hear, but I don't know. So there's an alignment of competencies in areas of skills, knowledge, and abilities that are focused on with the certification programs. So our goal would be to make sure that we are aligned to the national certification, because you get credit for many classes that you get. You've got the Council for Supply Chain Management Professionals, CMP. You've got NIGP, of course. You have a FAPO, and there's others. There's many others. So all of this training will tie into any national certification in terms of credit. And so I'll stop there. Alexa, if you have any more information on that, feel free to jump in.
No, I completely agree with what Bob is saying. We have and are and continue to do our due diligence in terms of incorporating the elements of the information that's available through like the NIGP and FAPO, all the other resources that are available in terms of procurement, and incorporate that information into the trainings that we do offer.
And the
So-
training that others will offer, by the time we have to be recertified in our own, we have to understand our own code. So there's going to be a lot of specific county business that's part of our program. But on the other hand, there's other areas like, writing specifications or developing a statement of work or contract administration. Those things can be acquired through the Southeast Florida NIGP chapter and other places. So there'll be the ability to participate in many other educational, professional development programs.
Well, we're excited that you're excited to hear about the future of procurement. That's really our time. We're at the 12:45 mark. I don't see any other questions in the chat, but if you guys have any additional questions about the presentation that you had here today, feel free to go ahead and send an email to purchasingtraining@broward.org, and I'll be happy to route those to Bob or, through myself. We will do our best to respond to you. Let's go ahead and give Bob, our purchasing division director, leader extraordinaire, a round of applause for putting together such a great presentation and kind of jumpstarting our fall and winter series of our Lunch and Learns. You guys see that on the BCNet, on the carousel. You see that there are many more to come. So stay tuned for those. And if you're not able to attend a Lunch and Learn in person, no sweat. We do record these sessions for future viewing. And so those who, may not have been able to attend today's session, but if you want to go ahead and share the link, when I do send out the link, you can send them the link to our Lunch and Learn playlist on YouTube. So without further ado, thank you guys for spending your lunch with us. We appreciate you taking out the time, and have a great Wednesday. I think today's Wednesday.
Thank you, Alexa, for all of your work on this, and to all the procurement-ati out there and the procurement ninjas. We have a lot coming for you, so we're going to have fun.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Bye.